Today we've got a crazy posthumous revenge story. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, that's not even your trash, Karen. I was dumpster diving outside a thrift shop. I'm an artist who works with reclaimed materials, so I'm a semi-regular garbage picker. When I do, it's always bins on public property, and I always leave the site cleaner than when I found it as a way to say thank you. Many businesses discourage dumpster diving for liability reasons. If I'm asked to leave, I leave. At least 3 thrift shop employees saw me digging through their dumpster and did not care. I even chatted with one guy and he helped me out by finding me a box to carry my stuff. Just as I'm packing up to leave, Karen comes out and says, "You can't put stuff in our dumpster." I say I'm not, and I carry on gathering my things. She starts to go off on me that I'm stealing. She points to a skate I had in my pile and says, "Those are skates we could be selling." It was a single skate that I'd found in someone else's garbage, and I told her as much. I informed her that my pile contained trash that I'd collected from around the neighborhood. She continued to falsely accuse me of stealing and how the dumpster was on private property. It's not. She went back inside in a huff. I put a bunch of stuff back in the dumpster, which she technically explicitly told me not to do, but I clean up as I always do, making sure not to leave any trash outside the dumpster. But before I left, I placed the single skate dead center in front of the dumpster. Now, I definitely understand, you don't want to have the liability, and frankly, you don't want people digging through your trash that maybe give dumpster divers in general a bad name, which is they go in there, they tear it up, they leave all the actual trash strewn about the place and take whatever they think is valuable for themselves. I just think in general, if you're willing to be respectful, I'd be willing to turn a blind eye. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy crazy stories of revenge, it would be amazing if you left a like or left a review if you're listening to my podcast. That said, our next story is Spaghetti Regretti. I worked at a small Italian joint that served pasta dishes and salads. Nothing too complicated. One of our regulars would come in and order a ton of food and eat it in the restaurant. He would also call, demanding we cater an event on the same day, starting only a few hours from the time he called. The manager was a pushover and the guy was always accommodated. About 3 hours before an event, he called and placed a massive order for several dishes, including our new spaghetti made with pancetta. The item was on the menu and clearly stated the ingredients. Turns out the guy was massively allergic to pork and ate enough of the spaghetti to get him quite sick. He didn't know what pancetta was, apparently. The next time he called, he absolutely blew up about it and wanted a refund and free food and all these other things. The owner was in and absolutely blasted the dude but didn't ban him. The manager removed the spaghetti bolognese and replaced it with pancetta spaghetti, all to spite this guy. We returned to the original spaghetti after about a week because the guy stopped coming in. He never went there again, and the pancetta is a special once or twice a year to make sure he doesn't come back. Even though I don't work there anymore, I get an email for the weekly specials and usually go once or twice to enjoy the pancetta spaghetti. You know, I don't even understand this guy's logic. If you have a very clear allergy, I get maybe assuming what's in a spaghetti dish, but if you don't know what pancetta spaghetti is, wouldn't you be looking into it to make sure that it doesn't have pork? It's like guy with peanut allergy tries a Butterfinger, is surprised to find out the butter actually means peanut butter. Our next story is parking lot justice. Sitting here in my pickup truck in your big box blue grocery store parking lot, you know, the one with a spark next to their logo. Just here for a quick run to grab a few cleaning supplies as I work in construction and finishing up a project. As I'm beginning to reverse to leave, your average stereotypical short haircut soccer mom and her luxury Audi SUV comes roaring in behind me and stops flashing her lights with a turn signal on 5 feet from my rear bumper, so I can't even back out my pickup truck. I sit there for a minute with my reverse lights on, staring at her through my back window, and she starts honking at me, so I decided to just pull back for the 6 inches I've already backed up, put my truck in park, and just sit there staring at her. This goes on for literally a minute and a half while she's blocking a couple other vehicles who are trying to pull into that row of parking spaces. She gets mad, blasting her horn at me again, and then pulls over a few spots down from me, and as I open the Reddit app to make a quick post here, she's walking past glaring at me while I'm just laughing in my truck because she had an extra 3 or 4 minutes to sit and try and bully and intimidate me into giving her a good parking spot that's 20 feet closer to the entrance instead of just pulling forward. And yes, it may have wasted my time as well, but I'm never in a hurry these days. Take my time on everything, and so yes, For me, it was just cathartic and comedic to spend a little bit of time to get some petty revenge on your average luxury SUV driving soccer mom. Unless this is like a situation involving like a handicap spot or like those expectant mother spots or whatever, or maybe even like a pickup spot, I could maybe understand that there's going to be some like parking lot shuffling and frustration going on. But when it just comes down to the fact that you're parking a little bit further away from the store, it really is not that big of a deal. And honestly, speaking as a person that always needs to get more steps in, I feel like the people who were the most likely to complain and fuss about having to park slightly further away are probably the people that benefit the most from getting those extra 20 steps in. Crazy Redneck 422 commented, I absolutely hate that if you're seen loading groceries into your car, people will put their blinker on and just sit there waiting for you to move. I can't move quickly. I'm disabled and have a handicapped placard. It takes me a few minutes to get situated. Honking the horn, glaring at me, trying to rush me is only going to hurt you. I absolutely will put it in low gear and we can sit here all dang day. This happened before I got a handicap placard too. It's not just about that. People are pushy and impatient and they never leave you enough room to actually back up in the direction you need to go. Our next story is the time I pretended to like the same boy as the girl I liked in school. I won. This is one of those things in my life that always makes me laugh in retrospect because of how stupid it sounds. I was a menace and needed to be stopped. This happened years ago during my school days. There was this girl in my class whom I had a slight crush on. Let's call her Nia. Nia could be mean and rude, and this happened often. I was done with her. I was just over it, but I didn't care too much to get my feelings hurt. We were both toxic and not good for each other. I moved on just like that. But the funniest thing happened a year later when I found out she had a crush on a friend's brother at the time. Drum rolls. Whom I knew had a crush on me. I wanted to get back at her so bad that I only started caring about him when I found out she liked him to sabotage and get in the way. Long story short, I won the mind games and ended up becoming friends with him. I eventually told him the truth that I wasn't into him romantically. I expected him to be mad for missing out on the chance to get with her, but he didn't seem to mind. I moved away a few years later, but I hope he's doing good. He was a great sport about the whole thing, but looking back, I was the worst. Is anybody else actually like slightly disappointed about this story? OP's like, I had these mind games going on and I got in and sabotaged the relationship here. But enough about that story. In the end, I won. It's like, no, hold up, go back, put it in reverse, Terry. Give me the details. I want to hear about the mind games. Our next story is, you're going to be a jerk over a parking spot? College parking was a constant battle, especially for those arriving after the early birds like myself. But one day, the desperation reached a new level. As a friend and I walked to our cars, a driver was practically glued to our bumpers, harassing us for our spots. I'm usually a live and let live kind of guy, but her behavior was infuriating. When I realized my friend was parked nearby, a plan formed. Need to be anywhere, I asked. They say no. I say me neither. We tossed our bags in the car and proceeded to have a lengthy conversation, blocking those precious spots. After half an hour of her hovering and fuming, she finally gave up. It felt good to reclaim a little power in a system designed to frustrate us. And, of course, donuts were involved. Now, was this a parking spot where there was no parking whatsoever? Like there was no space besides maybe the one OP would vacate? Like, surely that had to be the circumstance because there's no way that somebody's gonna be circling around and just waiting for a spot for 30 minutes versus just taking one a little bit further out. Like, was this the sunk cost fallacy in action here where they like, well, I've waited 15 minutes for the spot, I guess I'll wait another 15? No Sense 3190 commented, usually people that follow closely like that are annoying, but oh well. When they start honking because you're not leaving fast enough? Nope. In college, I usually had early classes, so I would get close parking spots. I would also pack a lunch and leave it in a cooler in my car. Some people would be polite and ask if I was leaving. I would tell them no. Often, I would get the close followers. They would get to see me grab my lunch from my car and then walk off. Sometimes it would be the honkers or sellers. For them, I would eat my lunch in my car and enjoy the show. Our next story is, start putting your groceries on the belt behind mine while I still have half a cart to unload. I hope you're not in a rush. elderly person at the supermarket pretended not to see that I was still unloading my cart and just started putting her stuff on the belt. I tell her, "Excuse me, I'm not done." She mutters something but doesn't remove her stuff, just pulls it back while the belt is moving. So I proceed to put the rest of my items one by one, slowly spreading them on the belt. The belt keeps moving and she has to keep pulling her items back. I make small talk with the cashier. I pay in cash. Usually use card because it's faster, but I guess not today. I take my time bagging my groceries. Can't have anything crushed in the bag now, can I? I make eye contact with the impatient elder as I leave and give her a little smile. She's fuming. I swear, boomers only have two speeds when shopping: snail pace when they're blocking other people for no reason, and lightning fast when they're ready to be served and they don't happen to be the first in line. Toddlers are more self-aware. You know, I can't say that I've ever had an experience quite like what OP shared here, but I have had the weird feeling experience where I go up to the checkout and somebody's in front of me and their stuff is clearly like spaced way ahead, close up to the register, and I just have like one or two items, so I put it on the belt way at the back. There's like a huge gap, and the person in front eyes it and then reaches over and grabs that like divider bar thing and puts it in between. Inside, I'm like, okay, all right, just in case they couldn't have possibly have known the 3 feet of separation meant it was 2 separate orders. Lopsided Bench 1347 commented, "Had that happened 10 or so years ago, the younger entitled princess was forcefully putting things on the belt, things I would use myself, so I let them get mixed with mine and paid for them all. All of a sudden she's yelling that I stole her groceries. I said no, everything here is mine and I paid for them. The cashier backed me up." Our next story is, towed my ex's car. It took over 6 months of trying to politely ask my emotionally abusive, narcissistic ex to move out of my home. He owed me $2,000 and wasn't even attempting to give me his half of the bills, spending what money he did have on various drugs, alcohol, and junk food, and not being able to keep a job for more than a few months. It ended up in a blow-up, because obviously he wasn't going to have it any other way, where he threatened my life. I made a police report and had to get court papers to have him removed. A few weeks after we left, a mutual friend reached out and said that he stayed with them a few nights, but went back to his home state, leaving his car parked outside their home. Well, a few months pass, he still hadn't come back to get his car, and his plates expired during that time. Over the weekend, I found out that he'd been talking behind my back and lying about so much more than I'd even realized. So I reported his car abandoned and got it towed. Oh, and our friends are my friends now? None of them even liked him. My question is, if the formerly his friends, now OP's friends, didn't even like them to begin with, why did they let the car stay there for 6 months before they finally did something about it? I mean, I guess if it doesn't cause any issues, it's not like a huge pressing issue, but I wouldn't want some sleazeball jerk that I didn't even like to begin with get away with having their car on my property for half a year. I don't want that thing to start getting buried into the ground and become part of the lawn decor. YJ92 Boudica commented, "Good girl, keep it moving and finding better friends out of it. Be cautious, he'll be back when he finds out you're hooking up with his alleged friends. I had my ex's car repoed while at a mechanic shop. I found out he was cheating and told them where to find the vehicle." Our next story is shopping carts. I went to Target yesterday, and while I was waiting for a car to pull out so I could park, another car came from the opposite side and stole my dang parking spot. They were only able to take the spot because when they backed out, I had to wait because it was coming my way, so as I waited, the other car basically just pulled in. I mean, literally the parking space was still a far walk anyways, so I just moved on to the next spot. The lady that stole my parking spot got out, looked me dead in the eye, and she rolls her eyes and throws her hands up like I was the problem. Anyways, I found me a parking space farther back and made the walk. When I finished shopping and came out, I noticed the car was still there. You know where she parked? She parked right beside the shopping cart storage area. So my petty butt decided to barricade her car using the shopping carts. As I finished, I got in the car and I seen her coming out of the store. I should have videotaped the incident, but it was hilarious. I actually drove right by her car and rolled down my windows and yelled out the window, "Hey, you can't park those carts there," and drove off. She was furious, but I enjoyed every bit of it. Reminds me of that meme video going around where somebody somehow manages to crash their car in a way that their entire car is like up a tree, and the person recording rolls up and rolls down their window and says, "Hey, you can't park there." Cuts to another video, a woman crashed her car and it's billowing white smoke. "You can't park your car there." Bay Area pup mom commented, "Brilliant. I'll never be able to park at Target again without laughing at this image." Our next story is, I got petty revenge by unleashing rancid farts on my Karen neighbor. I'm one of those kinds of guys who complained about not having their own Karen story in the past. Big mistake. Never, and I mean never, wish you could actually get to deal with one just for the sake of wanting to make a post. Last month, I moved out of my studio apartment and into a small condo I bought and finally got away from my Karen neighbor. I only dealt with her for a few months, but it was a bad few months. I'll give the short version in this post, but previous ones have the whole thing. But this Karen singled me out to harass me from the day she moved in. The first day, she was demanding the password to my Wi-Fi. She had a yappy little dog that barked so much, she got threatened with eviction. Karen would also make random noises at night to wake me up, would turn up her TV volume to the max, would have loud intercourse with her boyfriend, and showed up at my door repeatedly to beg for energy drinks, cigarettes, or small cash handouts. I think she knew I wasn't going to give her anything and just wanted to waste my time. She also spread rumors about me, accused me of stealing her phone, tried to force her way into my apartment, and sent her boyfriend over to pick a fight with me. Then she left smelly garbage bags in front of my door. I just moved them in front of her door. Then she spread Vaseline all over my car. The apartment manager just thought it was funny. Karen also ran up and started coughing and blowing her nose onto me because she'd gotten in trouble with the apartment manager for other things. I was already moving out soon, so I readied to dish out some extremely petty revenge, and I waited till the perfect time to do it. By my final week of my lease, I'd pretty much moved all of my stuff out, so I didn't even need to be there anymore, but I showed up a couple more times just for the petty revenge. I have mild lactose intolerancy, and if I have too much dairy and mix it with other things like caffeine, spice, or fiber, or all of the above, I have puke-worthy rancid farts. The apartment building didn't provide AC, and Karen had a noisy fan in her window next door because she didn't have an air conditioner and it was hot outside. Well, after eating all the stuff I knew would make me fart like crazy, I opened the apartment's only window and took a massive dump with the bathroom door open. I had a fan by the door blowing the smell toward the open window. That rancid smell went right outside and got sucked up by Karen's window fan. After a few minutes, I heard her screaming, "Oh my God!" She started gagging and crying. Once I finished that dump, I took some diarrhea meds to chill out my bowels, cleaned the bathroom, and gamed on my laptop till I thought it was safe to leave. A few days later, I showed up in the middle of the night, and sure enough, I could hear Karen's window fan running. So I did the same thing all over again. Karen started screaming through the wall that she had puked from the smell and was calling the cops. I just held in my laughter and stayed silent but deadly. Okay, maybe not so silent because she said she could hear me farting through the wall. I fully expected the police to come knocking, but that didn't happen. I cleaned the bathroom again, sprayed the place down, packed up what little I still had there, and left. Don't know if there was any further fallout from Karen, and I'm sure the smell reached other neighbors too. Yeah, I feel guilty for that. But it was worth it to stink her out after the 3 months of torment she put me through. I doubt she learned any sort of lesson from it, though. Does anybody else think OP went the long way around on this one? I mean, don't get me wrong, it worked, but they had to, deal with the bowel torment themselves and expel all of that. I mean, I've seen some mild YouTuber pranks back in the day. I think there's some, fairly inexpensive fart spray stuff that's on, Amazon that, from what I could tell, is horrendously noxious. OP could have bought that, stuck their hand out the window towards the fan, and just sprayed 3 or 4 times and probably would have had the same effect. Save yourself from all the dairy, spice, fiber, and caffeine. And more importantly, save yourself from having apparently such bad bowel movements that OP had to clarify in the post they cleaned the bathroom after both events. Again, it apparently was so bad from OP that they had to take the time to clean their bathroom down after the fact. That is an image I did not need. McBeaster commented, "I read a story like that on here once where someone gassed their annoying neighbor. They had one of those setups where the front door is a glass storm door, a small gap, and then the main wood door. So he went over, opened the glass door, farted in the space, and then closed it and rang the doorbell. Then got to watch them open the door and get butt blasted in the face. Our next story is spicy pizza. I worked at Pizza Hut way back in the day. We had a very mean and creepy manager. He would hide a recording device in the back of the kitchen so he could listen to us talking while he wasn't there and other weird stuff like that. He would always make us make him a thin crust pepperoni and jalapeno pizza for his lunch and dinner, but wouldn't let us have any or make ourselves one without paying like he did. One day I'd had enough, so I make his pizza for him and then added a ton of jalapeno juice to the top of the pizza. We had to run it through the oven extra to get all the juice dried up. You could smell the heat coming off of it. Cut it up, put it in the box, and took it to the back for him. A couple minutes later, you could hear him coughing and gasping. He asked what we did to the pizza, and we of course denied any wrongdoing. That was the only pizza he offered to share with us, and also the last one he made me make for him. Makes me think of all these stories you hear of people going to places where they've got like some ridiculously spicy name thing on the menu, like the tongue dissolver slice, and the person will go up and be like, "That's not spicy, give me one of those." You know you're in trouble when the person taking your order looks you up and down and goes, "You sure?" Beneficial Shame 8408 commented, "One time my dad went to a Pizza Hut in a small town and ordered pepperoni and jalapenos. They put like all their jalapenos on it, and they were peeping out from him at the back to watch him eat it," which he did. Anyway, that guy can make his own pizza. I don't like it when people like that make everyone else do it. Our next story is, you mow down my plants? Had an adjoining neighbor who was used to mowing the part of my lawn between my driveway and his house. The previous owner, my former landlord, didn't mind, but I did. I saw him outside and went over to show him that my lawn extended to within 3 feet of the side of his house on the city planning map. He said that he had always cut that grass and thought it was his. I thought we understood each other, so I put some perennials in various spots, including that area, including some small lilac runners. They can spread underground by rhizome from my sister's lawn, and some black-eyed Susans and echinacea. They weren't in bloom yet. He mowed some of them down along with my grass. I confronted him and he still played dumb about the boundary. Homeowners know it's important to not let someone else establish a right-of-way on your property. That night, I took some shears and cut the stems of the lovely purple allium flowers they had planted in front of their porch, right in the middle so it would be obvious. I watched from inside my kitchen as he stepped out with a cup of coffee the next morning. I saw him notice his flowers lying cut on the ground. He never said anything and never cut my lawn again. Edit, I did find an iron rebar marker buried vertically just a couple of inches under the grass from an old survey and showed it to him. A couple of years later, I had a professional survey done because I was putting up a fence on the other property boundary where the neighbors were in habit of using my driveway as a shortcut to the street, sometimes even driving over my lawn to the street. It not only showed that I was right about the boundary on one side, but that I actually had more land than I thought on the other neighbor's side. Fence now in place there. Bottom line here is, if you buy your own property, which God bless you if you can afford to do that these days, one of the most important things you should get if you can afford it is to get a survey done, at least if there isn't an already existing one or it's kind of clearly defined where the boundaries lie, because it solves so many issues like what OP dealt with. Delandender11 commented, "Reminds me of dealing with a petty neighbor when I was a kid. My family lived in a nice house in the country on about 7 acres. Our next door neighbor lived in a rundown double-wide mobile home with an abandoned farmhouse out at the street. Most of the border of our property was wooded, but there was about a 25-foot area where the front of his trailer looked out into the little orchard in the front yard of our house. It was a pretty view. That's important later. One day, my dad goes to mow the lawn, and when he's mowing that area, he tries to be a good neighbor and mow the lawn neatly so there wasn't a seam of uncut grass between his and our property. This guy comes out of his house and berates my dad for blowing grass clippings onto his lawn and the tractor tire touching his lawn. My dad explained what he was doing, and he just huffed and walked inside. A month later, he does pretty much the same thing to my mom. Big mistake. She unloads on him, then tells my dad to never mow that spot again. We spent years letting the weeds grow up and using it as a dump site for mulch and dirt for the garden and orchard. You want to be a petty jerk because we make the property look nice? Have fun staring at weeds and piles of dirt for years to come. Our next story is Family Got Revenge Posthumously. I know a family who had a difficult relationship with their mother. She could be cruel with her words and frequently used favoritism to triangulate her children. She had a particular issue with girls. Her 2 daughters often bore the brunt of her vitriol. This had lifelong impacts on them, their life choices, and self-esteem. Meanwhile, their father was an incredible man. He was kind, funny, and a genuinely lovely human. I don't know how they ended up together either. She outlived him by almost 2 decades. When he died, their children made sure that he was buried with a headstone highlighting their love. He was listed with a range of loving superlatives, capturing who he was. However, when she died and it came time to edit the headstone on their double plot, the responsibility fell to their daughters. Here lies the mortal remains of Joe Bloggs, loving husband, devoted father, kind brother, constant friend. Also, Mary. Hey look, so they didn't get the nicest remembrance on their gravestone. Also, Mary's here. But let's be real, for a lifelong lived of being apparently not a very good person to your kids, at least they left you with a remembrance. At least they left you with a headstone. They could have just left you with a puddle of yellow liquid. Expert Slip 7543 commented, I walk around a large local cemetery every now and then reading headstones. Coming across that one would have left me briefly dumbfounded and then doubled over with laughter. Our next story is I Was the Noisy Neighbor. Many years ago, I lived in a semi-detached house in northern Scotland, just outside of Aberdeen, and my neighbor put in numerous complaints that I'd been making a lot of noise. And I will admit, I had been making a lot of noise as I was doing my job of running a ship engine, which is a really noisy thing, in Singapore, 8,000 miles away. This job meant that I spent about 8 months of the year abroad sailing around the world on merchant ships, and my house sat empty. This appeared to have little to no effect on the noise complaints that were submitted to the local council. This is one of the signs that my neighbor was a super Karen. She was a nut job. She had even called the police because the children across the road were playing football in their own garden. She hated children and hated any noise that they made. Then life took one of those hard turns, which resulted in me putting the house on the market. In Scotland, you put your house into a silent auction with sealed bids, where it normally goes to the highest bidder. The key word being normally. There were 3 bids submitted to me for the house, all of which were in the same range. The lowest bid came from a lovely single mom who had 3 children, 2 of which had ADHD. And she was planning also to do a loft conversion, which would create a lot of noise and disturbance to the neighbor. Yes, I sold the house to her, despite it costing me a few £1,000s. Now here's a good philosophical, flip question in regards to this. What did OP do more here? Did they screw over their neighbor, or did they screw over that lady, putting them in a house next to a curmudgeon of a Karen? I'd like to know which one here actually truly outpowers the other. Is the Karen going to be more affected, or is that mom with the 3 kids? Gyroglyphics1 commented, I get why you did what you did, and I'm sure you helped that woman in a way. Now I kind of feel bad for that family because you can't reason with crazy. I hope those kids don't get shamed or harassed by your ex-horrible neighbor. Quasium replied, I hope that as well, but with 2 ADHD kids and remodeling the house, the Karen will probably suffer from a stroke or some high blood pressure thing in the near future. Love this, and although it was pricey, I would have done the same thing, by the way, if I could come up with something this cool. OP helped a family and ticked off a Karen for years to come. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy revenge story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.